Okay, today is called Quadratics Day 2. And I'm just going to do a brief reminder for you of some things you're supposed to know about quadratics. And then we have a little homework quiz to see if you've been learning what you're supposed to have been learning. All right. So first off, let's say you have a quadratic like this. This is a lot like the quadratic for the tennis ball lab. That's another thing we're going to do today is talk and give you a little bit of time to actually work in the tennis ball lab today. Then I've officially picked a date for that. That's going to be due a week from today. Your test is coming up in about a week from now also, except it's the end of this week. Okay, so as in Friday of this week is your test on quadratics and other stuff. And this tennis ball lab will feel better once you've been fully immersed in the quadratics. Okay, so tennis ball lab is due Monday. Test is Friday. This quiz today is only counting in the homework category. And here's a few thoughts. First of all, what's that called? The y-intercept. How do you find a y-intercept? Well, if it's a graph, you just go, it's right there. You just like look on the graph. What if it's an equation? There's a lot of different forms of an equation, and will that work for all forms of a quadratic? To do what you said, to set x equal to 0? Would it work in there? Would it work in this? Would it work in any of those quadratics? Yeah, there's no like caveat, well, if it's in this form. It's just the y-intercept is where x equals 0. How about the x-intercept? It's where y equals 0. Now those can be tougher on these because the x-intercepts, there's two of them. And you just said x equal to 0, sorry, y equal to 0 sounds easy, but what if it's like this and it's y equals 0? And let me get that y out of there. Let's say like a 7 or something. If I make this equal to 0, those are all ways that you could find the x-intercepts. This one I'd probably be thinking of using the what formula? All right, quadratic formula. How about the, could I use this to find the x-intercepts? Yeah, it's factored. If it's factored form, that's awesome. All right. If this had one thing it's good at, it wouldn't be finding the roots. It would be finding the what? The vertex. But what if you don't have an equation written in vertex form? There's still a way to find the vertex. What is it? It's part of the quadratic, yes. Can you tell me which part of the quadratic it is? Yep. All right. Then, how about this? What if I said this quadratic here is above 0? Is it above 0 all the time? No, it's not always above 0. But if I asked you, when is this quadratic above 0, what would be the key spots? The y-intercept, the x-intercept, a vertex, which would help you if you're trying to find when this parabola is above 0? X-intercepts. Okay, good. All right. Now, one more thing. What if it wasn't a parabola? What if it was a V shape? And I wanted to know when is the parabola, or no, when is the absolute value below 0? Do you get the x-intercepts are still important? But what if it's an absolute value and it's like this? Well, does this saying still work? The x-intercepts are where y equals 0. Yeah, still works. Yes. When you say above 0, does that have a y on for the parabola? Okay, when is this parabola above 0? It's above 0 when f of x, as in this is a parabola, right? It starts with f of x. When the f of x is above 0. So when this whole equation is above 0. So all the places that I just drew on in blue there, this whole time the parabola is above 0. At this spot, it's equal to 0. Okay, so that's the key spots. All right. Do you have any questions about parabolas at this point? Okay, I think what I'm going to do is do a little bit of time to work on your lab after this quiz is done, because here's the thing. It's literally, some kids are going to finish in 5 minutes for the quiz, and other people will want to take 10 or 12 minutes. Okay, so if you finish up early on the quiz, I want you to be able to work on your lab. So next, I'm going to talk about the lab, and then I'll give you a little quiz. And they're kind of related. All right, so this is some advice about your tennis ball lab. I would like you to find your tennis ball lab. If you haven't actually started the document, go find it now under Schoology. Don't just go add a blank page to these notes right now. You actually want to start your lab, or if you're already started on your lab, open that document. I'll show you where it is. So here we are in Schoology and this folder called Labs. Inside there you will find the tennis ball lab complete. And when I say complete, it's complete as in it's got all the parts that you would need. Like, for instance, it's got this in starting sheet here. Sorry. Where it tells you the questions you have to answer. And it's also got the format for all labs. It's also got commonly asked questions. All right, so back to this tennis ball lab page. Would you turn your iPad my way? I want to see how many of you actually went where I asked you to go. I'm still waiting for 3 people all on the side of the classroom there. All right, thank you. Now stay there, please. All right, I'd like you to circle the things you're actually supposed to find. Find the vertical speed. Find the max height. And the last one, I almost think of as a separate thing. Once you've got the vertical speed and the max height, this is like a follow-up question. But the 2 main big things you need are the vertical speed and the max height. Yes, you have to answer this too, but you'll understand it better once you've got the vertical speed down. All right, just a quick reminder about the formula, this guy right here. I'm going to write that out for you and make sure you understand it. Let's say we had this, negative 4.9 t. Can I change it from x to t? Sure you can. F of t. I'll call it h of t, actually. That would make the most sense, because it looks like height when I do that. If this was your equation, tell me some stuff that you would know. Do you remember this? Where the velocity is and etc. This is from higher algebra. It's last year. Remember something? Yes. To what? I can tell from looking at the formula. Pausing for a second. Okay. So that would mean you started throwing the ball up. The ball's 2 meters off the ground when you release it. Is that possible? Yes. You'd have to be kind of on the tall side, and you release the ball kind of on the late side. And then that could be 2 meters. So how are you going to do that? Today, in class, I want you to look at your video, scrub your video, get back to the exact moment when you release the ball. Go ahead and do that right now. You got a picture of yourself, right, in the video? Get to the exact second that you release the ball. Now I'm going to draw that because I don't want to actually put somebody's face up here. So here is Stick Jack, and he has just released the ball right here. Ball is just separated from his hand, and if you look, it's like right across from maybe where his eyes are. If you look on your video, you'll be able to tell, like, where is it on you? And then I've got over here on the wall, I've got little tick marks on the wall where it says like 1.5 meters, 1.6 meters, 1.7 meters, 1.8 meters. And I want you during class today to walk up here and go, Okay, I can tell from my release point, I was doing it underhanded, so it's about like, right at my waist or whatever. And then walk up here and put your hand up and then figure out where it is for you. Okay? That's your initial height. That goes there. Next, 6. Are you going to be able to guess and check your speed? And no. That's where your speed would go. What should you call it if you don't know your speed yet? Usually we call it the velocity, so take a wild guess what variable we usually put there. A v. So you don't know your velocity, but you'll figure it out. And a lot of people are like, well, how am I supposed to solve this? I'm not telling you that. You have to figure out how to solve this thing for the velocity. And one last thought is we just talked over all those formulas. If this is height and this is time, and you should know this number, how high it started off the ground, right? You're trying to figure out that number. That's also a really important spot. You have enough information. A lot of people just need like a little nudge, and I'm not going to tell you what to do because that takes away the whole, like, you have to figure out how to do this challenge of it. All right, when's it due? A week from now. If you wanted to ask questions about it in the morning, I'm not going to give you a lot more than I've already given you, okay, because you need to figure out how to do this. If you have to, you can ask me, and I'll try to figure out what more I can tell you without giving it all away. All right. So what's your goal? Find the velocity, as in the speed, that one little middle part of the equation. And you're trying to find the... Now I can't think of it. Thank you, max height. The velocity and the max height. Hint, you can't find one without finding the other first. Like, you have to get one of these before the other. You can't just like, well, I think I'm going to do this one. Well, maybe you can't. One of the two has to be found first. Okay, so there's some thoughts. What I'd like you to do right now is spend some time on the lab for just a couple minutes to kind of get into it, figure out your time the ball was in the air, maybe start writing out some equations. You could always write your purpose statement. From what I just told you, you could write in your own words what the purpose of this lab is. You do not have to enumerate all of the A and the B and the C. You can generalize that you want to find the first two is fine. I don't need you to write every single thing out in the purpose statement. All right, so spend some time working on the ball. I hope to see some of you walking up here and actually figuring out, okay, where, for me, what is this, or wherever you're releasing the ball. Figure out what that height is for you. Okay. Then, after a few minutes, I'm going to put some questions up on the board that you're going to answer with a partner. So I'm going to have you and the person next to you slide together, and you'll have a little time to work on this little mini quiz in class. And it's a review. And then one last thing, in case you finish with all of that, I'm going to show you your homework right now. And it's not that. Hold on a second. Different file. It's in this one. And the homework starts right here. And you're going to do the whole first page. You're going to skip the middle one on the second page, so the top one and the bottom one. And I'm wrong on the first page, my bad. On the bottom of the first page, there's a problem you skipped. The very bottom problem on the first page that you can't even see on my smartboard, but you'd probably see it. You skip the middle one on this page, and then that's it. You don't do any after that. Just the first two pages. Okay, I think that's enough for today. All right, so there you got plenty that you can do. And a little bit of work time now on the lab, then I'll put up those quiz questions. I'm going to pause while you have some work time. Okay, so this is a little quiz I'd like kids to take at this point. They're already working on it because I explained it before I resumed the video. So part A, they're supposed to answer what tells you those 2 points, the blue points, these spots here and here. Part B, what mathematical formula or process tells you that part. Next, the red part. What would tell you this little spot down there? There's a way to find it that I've told you how to use. Don't just tell me it's the vertex. I know it's the vertex. Part D, there is a negative in here, just calling out to remind people there's a negative there. And I want to know the solution to this. And the answer can be an interval notation, like, between 5 and 7. And then E, I had suggested that they make a sketch, what they think it looks like. I'm not saying this is the right sketch, but and sometimes that helps you figure out, oh, you mean between here and here. Okay, so make a little sketch will help you answer E as an elephant. That also can be an interval notation. All right? So I'll pause. We may not have more after this quiz, but if we do, the video will continue. If not, that means we were done after this. Okay, here we go. We're now grading this thing out of 5 points. Put a fraction out of 5 on top of the paper. Hopefully the vast majority of you will see that your kid got either 4 or 5 right. For part A, what tells you those things? The quadratic formula gives you the roots, the zeros, etc. Is there another way? Yes, you could have said factoring or factored form of the equation. That's how you get these. Quadratic formula is my go-to that I was kind of hoping you would say, because it works every time. It always works. Even with imaginary roots, you can find the roots with the quadratic formula. Yes? If they said set y equal to 0, I'm going to say and solve for x. I guess I will accept that, because that is correct. Hopefully they know how to solve for x, which would be either factoring or the quadratic formula. But all right, part B. This one is like what you just said. To find the y-intercept, you set x equal to 0. And it doesn't matter which form of the equation you're in. If you set x equal to 0 and solve, you will find the answer for B. Part C, that's the vertex. You couldn't just say vertex. There's 2 ways to do it that we have learned. One, complete the square, but a lot of people don't think of that one. They think of the other one, which is x equals negative b over 2a. All right. Part D. Part D, this one has to be solved algebraically, and I will show the work just in case you're one of the kids that is not good at this and you want to see how this works. Starting by subtracting 7 on both sides, negative x minus 4 is greater than or equal to negative 7. Now, some people think this is scary because I have an absolute value that's supposed to be negative, but it isn't negative, really. That gets off of there by multiplying by a negative 1. X minus 4 less than or equal to 7. Notice what happened there when I multiplied by a negative. Did you remember to switch the sign? I guess you'll find out soon when they grade yours. And now you're going to split this into 2 parts. I need to make myself a little more room here. Splitting into 2, x minus 4 is less than or equal to 7. X minus 4 is greater than or equal to negative 7. Again, I hope you remember to switch the sign over there. Now we're adding 4, x less than or equal to 11, adding 4, x greater than or equal to negative 3 on a number line that would look kind of like this. Here's a negative 3, and it's greater than or equal to that, and then it's supposed to be less than 11. Here's an 11. It really makes it easy to see when it's on a number line. If they said between negative 3 and 11 with brackets, that would have been okay too. And then the last one. Oh, by the way, if they have one of the 2 answers, you may give them half credit. So if they kind of swung and missed on part of it, but got half of it, I'll give them half. Last is E as an elephant. I hope you factored this. If you can factor it, you should. Because that sets you up nicely for making a picture. I suggested making a picture. And you have to know negative 1 and negative 5 are the roots. So here's negative 1. Here's negative 5. Here's my parabola going through both. And now where is this parabola under 0? Oh, well, right in here. How do you say that? Well, you take these points and you take the x value of them and you say between negative 5 and negative 1 brackets because it could equal it. What if they use parentheses? Take off half. Because negative 5 actually works. When you put it in, you get 0. And it says less than or equal to 0. And 0 is equal to 0. So brackets. All right. How many of you just gave out a 5 out of 5? 4 out of 5. Good enough. Everybody head back to your spots. Come on up if you have a question. Well, there weren't any questions, so I'm going to see if we can. I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, here's where your homework is located. If I were you, I'd start it with me to make sure you get what's going on. I really like to get it started on the homework because my daddy always said, and I think he was right, once you're started with something, you're halfway done. It's not that bad once you get going, in other words. Okay, so this first one. Any thoughts? What do you think we should do to start with? Factor it. Let's go ahead and factor that. X. What if I can't factor it? What would I do? No, not cry. Use the quadratic formula. And by the way, what if you can't factor it because you're just terrible at factoring? The quadratic formula would tell you what the factors should be. It tells you the roots, and then you could go from there. I think anybody can do the quadratic formula, but not everybody's awesome at factoring. This is simple enough. I hope you were able to figure it out. We have a plus 3 and a minus 1. Do you agree? Okay, then that's got to stay greater than or equal to 0. So what do these answers mean? Negative 3 and 1. Here's negative 3. Here's 1. Those are the roots. Now, where is this parabola bigger than 0? In that zone and that zone, which is from here over and from here over this way. What I'd do is answer like this. I'm not going to say all the answers. Anyway, you figure out how to finish it from there. Okay, and number 21 is very similar. You just have to solve it for 0 first, and then do the factoring, etc. And if there's any of these that don't factor, it might be this one. And if so, which I think it still factors, but if it doesn't, you could always use the quadratic formula to find the 2 spots. Okay, getting this page, this just takes the same exact thing as our tennis ball lab, upside down parabola, and makes it into profit. Apparently this company makes profit until it hits a certain level, and then they actually make less profit. That's a little weird, that's not normal, but I could imagine it in this scenario. Let's say that you have to make, if you have to all of a sudden make more cars than you actually can make, like let's say you're a car company, and you can only make, like Tesla is trying right now to make 5,000 cars a month. What if they're, to be extra profitable, they have to make 10,000 cars a month? They can't even make 5,000 cars a month. They can't, they don't have enough factory space. So to get, all of a sudden, to make more product, you might have to open another factory. It might make your profit go down. See what I'm saying? Because to maybe be able to manufacture that many, you have a lot of expenses. So anyway, the profit's going up, but then comes back down again. This is just trying to give you context for the same exact stuff. Don't let the fact that it's a word problem make you think it's all different. It's not. It's just giving you context for your parabola. All right, so the $50 in profit thing means you have a line going through here that's at 50, and you figure out where it hits. Okay, if you need help, you've got some time to work in class now. Feel free to come up and ask. That's all I got for you for the video for today.